We've all felt the problem of God's hiddenness, and have at some time cried out, "Where are you, God?" But unlike theists, atheists think this is a reason to reject belief in God.
Credit where credit is due. At least he said belief in God and not rejecting God. Is the proper definition of atheism finally beginning to seep through to theists? Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Perhaps the most unreasonable part of religion is the insistence on having faith, often backed by the threat of hell for not doing it. You'd think on a subject this important, we'd be given all of the facts we need to make an informed decision, rather than this carrot and stick approach the Abrahamic religions seem to take.
Since if God existed and desired a relationship with us, he would at least ensure that we were all convinced that he exists. Obviously, that's not the case, so he must not exist, so it's said.
I'm sure plenty of people say that. I don't. Or at least, not precisely. What I do say is that belief in God is irrational due to the lack of evidence. That God exists is an unsupported claim, and belief in his existence is like believing in a fairy tale, given that the claims made about God's nature and all of the baggage that comes with his existence are magical in ways that we don't see in the real world. At all. That's why I don't do it, why I don't believe. Religious people have made claims and failed to be convincing.
It's true that God hasn't immediately presented himself to our intellect to where nothing needs to be done on our part. But why is it necessary that God do this in order to be good?
Well, here's a wacky notion. God wouldn't need to do all of this to be good if religion didn't take over people's lives. Look at the dogma. Look at the doctrine, the baggage that comes with religions. Look at the expectations, the dress codes, the diets, the kinds of fun we're not allowed to have, the kinds of sex we're not allowed to have. Look at the lengths people will go to enforce these beliefs on everybody and not just the followers of the religion. If belief in God didn't come with all of those extra demands on our lives, the effect on who we are, who we must be, and if there wasn't the threat of eternal torture for nonconformity, then, yeah, God not showing up unambiguously wouldn't be quite so dickish. But
from the Christian theist's perspective, God has at least made it possible to know that he exists by providing sufficient evidence through nature and revelation.
None of that is sufficient evidence. None of that even is evidence. Studying nature, we can see that it operates no God required. And what revelation? The stuff in the Bible that happened a long, long time ago and which nobody can actually prove occurred? People having sudden conversions today because they had some experience they can't share with others except as what amounts to a campfire story. Sorry, but that isn't sufficient evidence to any critical-minded person. You're going to have to do better than that.
For example, there are many philosophical arguments that give good reasons to believe that God exists, some even demonstrating his existence, the 5 ways of St. Thomas Aquinas being the most popular.
Aquinas has been debunked again and again. You will not prove God's existence purely philosophically. I could prove the existence of absolutely anything, provided I never had to show any real-world data. Unambiguous real-world data. Nobody has ever been able to do that for any God, provide that kind of data.
There's also good reason to believe that God has revealed himself through Jesus of Nazareth. That reason being Jesus' resurrection from the dead.
Which is only claimed to have happened in the Christian storybook. If God's going to reveal himself by way of resurrection, he's going to have to do it in the age of cameras and advanced scientific equipment, thus removing faith as a factor.
As to why God doesn't immediately present himself to our intellect, I think the answer is found partially in the good of rational inquiry. Rational inquiry belongs to man's unique mode of knowledge. And since God relates to man in accord with his nature, it's befitting God's goodness to allow man to rationally inquire about his existence.
Oh bullshit. If Goddie Poo wanted us to engage in critical thinking, don't you imagine he could have picked a topic that wasn't quite so important? One upon which absolutely everything else about his religion didn't hinge. If God isn't real, everything the religion claims and expects goes out the window. You'd think his existence would be the last thing he wanted ambiguous. No, if the Bible is any indication, God hides himself because he wants our blind faith, not because he wants us to Scooby-Doo his existence.
But just because someone might not arrive at the right conclusion about God, it doesn't follow that person is automatically damned.
Mark 16:16, He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. Revelation 21:8, But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. John 3:18, He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. Tell me again how an unbeliever isn't already damned. Go on.
So, although God could make his existence more obvious and give the answer in the back of the book, so to speak, the fact that he doesn't is not a good reason to embrace atheism.
Okay then, I'll embrace Hinduism. No wait, Islam. No, Shintoism. The Norse gods? Egyptian! Help me out here. Why should I believe in your hide-and-seek deity and not theirs? For a god who claims to be so much cooler than all the others through human history, yours isn't doing such a hot job of making the case for his religion over theirs. I'm an atheist because you theists are really crap at advertising. Right now, your god's product score is barely even half a star, if that. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think.
You know, Dewey, we wouldn't have to do this if I had more Patreon patrons. Just saying.
A thumbs up for this video is a vote for excellence and glory. Subscribe to BionicDance and make the internet great again.